Well, we are here in Saudi Arabia. It is now 2:48 Eastern Standard Time in the morning. I am not, excuse the sporadic and very random times. My life is still not in such a way where I can always try to fine tune a time and know I can go at that time and be there. And I'm up and just currently feel a little bit okay to do something. So we're going to do something. We're going to talk about this. And first thing we're going to address is something that's very important that even myself right now, some people may consider what I'm going through. You got to have a certain mental fortitude, and there are going to be negative times, positive times. But as we know it, Sebastian Vettel seems to be heavily involved with some interactions this weekend, karting and some other things he has going on. As well as he did do a interview, and in some of that interview, what's going on from Barbados. That's what I'm talking about, man. Barbados is a beautiful place. And in that interview, Seb came to the defense. I'm not going to word for word go over everything because I can't and don't remember everything word for word, but I'm going to paraphrase the most important part. Mary Beanie always going to be there. What's going on, Mary Beanie? But Seb went into talking about Lando and some of the criticism that Lando has been getting for his mental, what some people would say is mental weakness. I know many of us here say that Lando doesn't have that dog in him, and that's what we mean. So I'm not going to speak for everybody as far as what they mean. There are some people out there that say Lando is mentally weak. I'm not even really disagreeing to that to a point. Now, what I do want to say is Seb coming to the defense of Lando does not change my perspective about what I feel, in my opinion, of Lando being able to mentally have the fortitude and the makeup to battle somebody like Max Verstappen on track, because that's what we've seen. Lando has proven this via his less lack of actions in situations, and then his heavy criticism of himself. Nobody, I don't want to say anybody. Let me not speak for everybody. Let me speak for myself. I am not criticizing Lando for being forthcoming or publicly speaking about his mental, what he basically, how can I say this because I don't want it to come off negative. But his criticism of himself, his analytical brain of his performance and how he comes up. What I am saying is the way Lando does it and how often he does it and how he comes across when he does do it does kind of lend somebody to have the fair opinion that Lando is mentally weak within a situation that he cannot afford to be. That is what I will say. There's certain matches make fights, right? And if you see a certain person that's going to compete against another person and you look at what this person says or does, you kind of come up with an outcome for who's going to win this bout. And a lot of us have come up with the outcome that Lando doesn't win this bout. Now, I've told you the way that Lando can. I've told you that if McLaren makes sure that this car is solid, has a wide range of a window for setup throughout the course of the year, and Lando can put himself in front of Max Verstappen by several tenths, if not more seconds, then you put that into a position where we don't have to worry about Lando being side to side by Max Verstappen becoming the doorman that we've seen him become. I think we've all seen Lando fight against Lewis Hamilton harder than he's fight against Max Verstappen. All right, so that's what I will say about that. Yeah, Seb comes to a defense. That's cool, Seb. But I don't even think Seb, if he looks back at his press conferences and even his analytic or his review of himself, would say, because Seb was very public. He was very public announced. Like, Seb didn't mind coming out in public talking about things that he felt. All right, maybe he felt he could have done more, but he wasn't afraid or shied away from talking about himself or other drivers in public. So I get what Seb's doing. There's nothing wrong with Seb's doing. I do think some people harshly and maybe unfairly criticize Lando to a point where it becomes more of a personal attack than it does just kind of giving your opinion on what you just see on the surface. And maybe Lando deep down can do everything he's doing and still have the guts to and balls and bronze to fight Max Verstappen. We'll see. Because this weekend, what we will want to see is Lando going to recover in this race, put himself in a position, not only with Max Verstappen, but with his teammate Oscar Piastri to get on that top step, because Oscar's going to be coming for it. Now, let's go ahead and get to some other things that I was concerned about. And if we go ahead and we just check out FP2's results, we see that Lando is up there first. All right, Lando did get that. Now, this is FP2. We got FP3 coming up in about 5 or 6 hours, about 6 hours. And Oscar's only back by a tenth. Max Verstappen is back by almost 3/10. And we'll see how that is going to pan out. Big shout out to, I believe Gasly laid down a pretty nice time. And I want to say closed out at the top of the charts in FP, maybe FP1, I think that was. Yeah, FP1, Gasly. Gasly, what I will say about Gasly is this. Gasly is giving me a very good reason to say that Alpine themselves, as a team and an organization, may indeed have more to show us as time goes on and a lot of things change in their team. We already know that Alpine will soon be taking on a customer team uniform versus a works team uniform. All right. They're going to be giving up that works team situation. They're going to go to being a customer team of Mercedes power unit. There also may be some things in work for the chassis to be updated. And seeing what I'm seeing from what Gasly is able to do currently right now in the situation does make me feel a bit more positive about things that could possibly happen at Alpine when they make some of these other changes. Also, Russell on the radio, I've got a bit of high speed bouncing. Okay, here comes something very familiar with Mercedes. I'm pretty sure a lot of Mercedes fans don't want to see a radio message like this, because you can remember when these type of radio messages came out during the first season of the ground effects era, it did not bode well for Mercedes for several seasons. All right. And things have been looking pretty promising for Russell as far as a better performing season this season in 2025. Kimi Antonelli is looking like a very nice, strong, competitive rookie this season. And he did have some clips in there today in free practice. And I'm going to tell you some of my concerns about free practice were going to be first, the first two drivers that I thought about were Sainz and Lewis Hamilton. But they weren't my highest concern drivers that I thought about, because I said coming into this race weekend, my concern about Sainz and Hamilton and the rest of the rookies were going to be that they were going to push and then wind up making a mistake on a circuit that will make you pay big for making a mistake. All right. Jeddah has high risk, high consequences, and also high reward. It's a triple trifecta of a lot of things could go extremely right in extremely the most chaotic situations, and a lot of things can go extremely wrong with just a little bit of chaos. All right. And we had a lot of lockups. Ollie Behrman locked up. We saw Lance Stroll turning the car around. I think Alonso locked up. Hamilton locked up. Leclerc locked up. Max Verstappen locked up. There was a lot of lockups here. In this, we had a red flag by Yuki, which we'll talk about. And there was a lot of reports of wall touching as well. And I did a short on that. And it was because somebody asked me, like, why is it every time that these drivers are worried about saying that they touched the wall, yet the car seems fine? Well, that's because touching the wall doesn't necessarily, as you see this shot right here with Gasly, very close to touching this wall. Just because the car manages to keep moving about, it doesn't completely mean that that car is okay. Just because that car doesn't break right there and then when you made the impact with the wall doesn't mean that a component hasn't been weakened to the point structurally that it will fail later on. And that can even be more dangerous, because now you're talking about failing at a time where you don't want a car to fail. That is what you're talking about. You're talking about failing at a time you don't want a car to fail. And that could involve somebody else into a situation other than yourself, which now we have to worry about bigger and maybe even more worse consequences. All right. Now let's get into somebody else that we very well know, and I know it's an eye. We're gonna be keeping an eye on this driver probably for the duration of the season to come up with a general census of how just bad of a decision was it that Red Bull made initially, and where does his career go from here? And I think that most of you probably know who and what that driver is. And if you don't know, then I'm telling you, it is Lawson, who unfortunately today I mistakenly thought about Logan Sargent when I thought about Lawson. Is Lawson Red Bull's Logan Sargent? That's what I thought about. And when I thought about that, I said, you know what, let's go ahead and look at this, because there are some things that Lawson needs to be aware of. And one of those things is you don't want to be called to the principal's office too many times. Being called to the principal's office too many times is just not a good situation for anybody. All right. But especially Lim right now. And I think that Lawson is, I don't want to say he's spiraling just yet, but here we'll see that Lim was alleged at our breach of Article 12.2.1, which is International Sporting Code and noncompliance with race director's notes. He then proceeded to be reprimanded, driving this driver first reprimand of 2025, Article 12.2.1, did not comply with race director's notes. As you see right here, that crossing that painted area between the pit entry and track a second time during FP1. All right. This no doubt that this prohibition was breached for a second time. All right. So he's being warned. He's being told. And then we come here and you'll see that he gets a warning, and it just is something that he doesn't need. It's something that Lawson, not Logan Sargent, is something that he doesn't need right now to have his mind worried about these things, because things are not going the best for Lawson right now. And what I will say is, we've seen drivers do these things. We've seen it happen before. Max Verstappen did it before, got away with it. We've seen Lewis Hamilton did it one time in an event. I think he got reprimanded for it. We've seen it. It's happened before, right? I think Carlos egregiously did it at what event? I can't recall which one it was, but even Sebastian Vettel has egregiously crossed over that line. You know, some drivers going into the pits and then decide they don't want to be there, and they come across that line in such a way where it's an unsafe situation. And these things can pile up with Lawson. To the point where he does start spiraling. You know, I think right now he feels a bit slighted, not having that Red Bull seat anymore, getting demoted almost as fast as he got promoted. I would tell Lawson that you don't need to feel slighted, because honestly, I think a general census, if not majority, feel that you honestly should not have had that seat to begin with before Yuki anyway. If we just go by a 2-race weekend sample, Yuki has outperformed you in that seat for those 2 events. If we just go there, and I think if we kind of just, let's take a legitimate look into it, and we'll see that down here, Lawson, no complete right here for Red Bull Racing, DNF. That was the first race of the season. Okay, so then if we go into China, we'll see that Lawson finished 12th for Red Bull Racing, and one of the most dominant cars, not top, we'll say right now, I'm going to say top performing team. They're still a top 3-4 performing team. All right. And as we see Max Verstappen up there in 4th, and there it is. And then other than that, then we get Yuki in Japan. So right there, we got a DNF and we got a 12th place finish by Lawson. 2-race sample. Just going to go by 2-race sample with Yuki, Japan. Yuki manages to where was Yuki Tsunoda? Right here, 12th. So he's already equaled right here, Liam. First time in the car, right? Yuki didn't get all the time in the off season to prepare and come in and do everything he needs to. This is his first time. Boom, you're in, Yuki. See what you can do. Makes 12th. Then we get into Bahrain, and Yuki finishes 9th. So in a 2-race sample size, as well as the other samples that we already had comparing Yuki to Lawson during the 6 races that he was in, during the other times that he was in, plus all the other drivers that Yuki has done better than. What's going on, Maria Duncan? I see you in the chat. What's going on, Credible Facts Quest? We know that Yuki's just better, right? Yuki is just better. So I don't think Lawson should feel slighted at all. Okay. And you all do. I just want you to know, yeah, I really would love to be live for quali. I cannot promise that. I've already been up for 2 hours now, just dealing with situations. And I just said, if I'm up, just let me see if I can manage to get a live done and then continue out. I really do need to get some sleep, which I want to try after my next treatment to go ahead and get some sleep. But if I can make it for a live quality, trust me, I really, really, really do. But I will say this. I have succumbed to the fact that you just need to rest as much as possible. All right. So if I can't, I won't. If I can, maybe I will. I'll just say that. Other than that, Lewis Hamilton not having the best day. And I'm not sold on if it's not the worst day. This is FP1. It's not the worst, and it's still not the worst. But I'm not sold if the new updates have become the upgrade that Ferrari have hoped that they would be. I think overall Ferrari has taken a stance that we're just looking for an upgrade that will give us a wider setup range window so that we can perform consistently through the season. Well, if that wide range setup window is a low performing window or is a low performing attribute and it might be consistent, then you're just consistently just okay. That's not what we expect to see Ferrari. But to be fair, that's kind of, Ferrari's been bridesmaid, not the bride, for several seasons now. And we were wondering if they were going to change this coming up this season. And my question was, although as impactful as Lewis Hamilton is, there's a lot of things he's going to have to get up to speed with. And I think some people miscalculated just how impactful he could be as far as his race pace and everything else going on. Lewis Hamilton is unbelievably the GOAT. He is unbelievably, by far, an anomaly when it comes to the sport, motorsport, and Formula One. But he's still human. He still has a learning curve that every other driver has, and Carlos Sainz spoke to this. Lewis Hamilton is not doing horrible. But he's going to have to get his bounds, and he's going to have to find his way with this car, and Ferrari's going to have to do their damn job. And at this point in time, I don't see Leclerc racking up a bunch of race wins, and he's been in the team for a long time. He's got the smallest gap to close to get more familiar with the car that he was already familiar with. It's easier for Leclerc to get more familiar with the car that he's known and they make a change because he knows where it started and then the change happens and then he can adjust than it is for Lewis Hamilton to come into a team entirely that he's never been a part of, get in a car he's never driven in, a steering wheel setup that he has to keep getting right so he can get more comfortable. There are a lot of variables there. And that's a big gap to try to close. Now, Lewis Hamilton will be able to close that gap, I believe, sooner than most other drivers would. But he's still got a gap to close. And so right now is going to be the time where you're going to have a lot of haters kicking him while he's down. Guess what? If they're going to kick him while he's down, I got somebody else I can kick while he's down. There's a lot of that. A lot of that can go around. A lot of that can be thrown around, and I don't mind doing it. I don't mind doing it at all. Okay? So we still, I think this is going to be a good event. We will see what qualifying delivers for us. Oscar Piastri with his radio messages are absolutely funny. He's just so calm, cool, and collective. Okay, so let's see what happens. Like I said, in about 6 hours time, I want to say 6 hours time, we will have FP3 coming up, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. FP3 will be coming up, so that would be about 6 hours and 22 minutes. Hopefully you all will be catching that, and then qualifying will follow that shortly, so a few hours after, actually, about 1300 to 1400. And if I can, we will be live, and if I can't, then we'll just enjoy watching it. But we will be in the Wolves Den Discord on Sunday, so I can hear what you all thought about this entire race weekend and how everything you think is going to go. So let's just keep an eye on these things. Let's see what happens. I don't know how many red flags we might see. Yuki Tsunoda, unfortunately, basically what I was talking about earlier, made some contact with the wall, steering components went, ended up having a collision, red flag in FP2, just more or less time that Yuki is going to be able to have to get more adjusted to the Red Bull car. But I have no doubt that hopefully FP3, they'll get that car turned around. It was a considerable amount of impact and damage done, but it wasn't something as egregious as the whole car's got to be rebuilt. I think we saw that with Jack Doohan in a racing event. He just completely destroyed that car. But yeah, so there are some things that got to be done. Yuki will get back in there. He'll get back in the saddle. I actually look to see Yuki finish in the top 10 this weekend as well. And we'll see how that goes. It is a street circuit. And in a street circuit, everybody knows you got to have balls to run near the walls. And running near those walls, I'm a little concerned about George Russell, as we've seen some of the things he's done when he has to get close to walls and clipping in Singapore and going for the gap. I still am concerned about some of these rookies. And that, let me get back to that point. My point was saying earlier about Lewis Hamilton and Carlos is that they have the experience and the patience to know that they need to build up while being in a situation where they have a learning curve, where some of these rookies are in a mindset where they are trying to prove that I am worth every penny because I need more pennies, and will push to a fault, and we'll see more red flags than we would like to see in any of these events. So let's just see how it goes. Let's see how everything turns out. I think we're in for another good race weekend. I want to say that this race weekend is going to be our final race weekend until May 2nd. And I'm not excited that we're going to go that long without racing events, but that is about 2 weeks. And good God willing, I am hoping that I am a bit more restored in 2 weeks' time, although I've learned that 2 weeks recovery doesn't give me exactly what I would hoped it would, but it does give me something. And yeah, but excuse anything that I might say if I do go live later today, because if depending on my pain level, I will be popping that oxy, and you never know what can come out of my mouth. You never know what comes out of my mouth when I'm legit just sound. Duchess Holland, member for 33 months. How you doing, Jay, in the chat? Let's hope Sir Lewis Hamilton can put on a good quality lap today. Stay strong, Jay. Thank you, Miss Duchess Holland. Much appreciated. And Mary Beanie giving her some good super chat love. Yeah, I really do appreciate that. But yeah, this is it's a process. This process I'm going with, process that these drivers are going through. So not the same, but it's just saying that these are some things they can't rush. Some things are just going to take their time, and you're going to have to take your time with it. So, all right, peace and love to everybody. I hope that you will be watching. I will be watching, but I hope we will be live together to see who's going to grab that pole position. Wolfpack out.